Up to date. Louisiana's what I call on fire. We are actually have so many things happening in our state right now. It is unbelievable. There's a lot of new expansions, new construction going on, and that construction and all of those modifications that are going to be taken equal to something like $150 billion worth of construction in our state. We also know that we're going to need 80,000 workers, and it's our job to figure out how we're going to get 80,000 qualified workers to come do the jobs for most of our industry, and that's what is a start. Our crude production is up or equal to the 1980s right now. We've got all coming back, and think about the speech that we heard this morning about gas to liquids. That's a $20 billion investment, and if you heard Chris earlier today, he said $4 billion was the largest capital investment we had to date in this, and they announced today that they did a $20 billion job. So when I say it's on fire, I just say the Gulf is going crazy. We have plants being built. We have gas to the north, and everything is our chance to bring our state back to where it should be and where we want it to be. You know, as your chairman, I always tried to set specific goals. I tried to obtain those goals, and I tried to meet those goals. And I'll start with some issues. I'll try to just hit them, but let's start with the downstream guys. Okay, we have 17 refineries in our association. Those 17 refineries, and of course all the chemical plants and all the manufacturers in our state are all facing new regulatory safety program regulations changes. And these could be tremendously costly to all of our plants, and we're trying to make sure that we weed through and that the regulations that do come out allow us to stay profitable and being able to operate. You know, sometimes people forget, but there's one thing about our industry. We all live to be safe. We all live to have a great environment. And so that off the table, we got to figure out these regs. We've been faced this year with an influx of a new environmental activity group. They called it the Green Army by General Honore. He is attacking us at every which way is possible. He's talking on frack water. He's talking on water in general. He's talking about the sinkholes and the storage facilities. He's talking about the abandoned lawsuits and all of the legacy lawsuits, levy lawsuits, you name it. They own us. They're attacking us. It's depressing because, you know, we as an industry have tried to follow the rules and have followed the rules. And as rules change over the years, you know, we weren't necessarily in place 35 years ago, what's happening today. We sure, and a lot of us inherited a lot of those things that we did, but the people before us actually operated according to what was the requirement and the regulations at that time. So we've got to fight through these issues and go on. The last thing, as far as the downstream is concerned, that we need to really take a look at as an association is the state regulatory agencies and the interface with the DNR and the DEQ. And the reason I say that, Governor Jindal, into his second administration, has always downsized government. And by downsizing government is a good thing. I'm not against keeping large government and a lot of people around, but he also has cut those regulatory agencies down. And if you have $150 billion worth of construction coming and you don't have the people to process the permits and the people to handle the infrastructure, we're going to be slowed down. We won't make our dates. So we need, as an association, to work with the governor and work with those agencies to make sure that we have the proper trained personnel, the skilled personnel, and everything that we have in position to help us move forward. Then another issue I talked to y'all about last year was the offshore committee. I coming from where I was coming, I kind of had a feeling that the Gulf of Mexico was going to be a hot spot. And I realized the necessity for an offshore committee to be formed in our association that was really meaningful. And so I challenged Chris John and our members to put one together. And I'm happy to report that we've been able to hire Lori LeBlanc to be our new director of the offshore committee. And Lori has a lot of expertise, but she really gained a lot of knowledge after the accident, BP's accident. She actually interfaced with Scott Angel and went to Washington and tried to get us back in the Gulf of Mexico, and has worked through a lot of the regulatory issues that we're faced with. But I also, in forming this committee, challenged her and our staff to look at certain areas. And one of those areas were the coastal restoration of the state of Louisiana. You know, we all read in the paper every day about $50 billion coming to the state of Louisiana to help restore our lands and do all the things that we have to do. But my concern is that this $50 billion doesn't turn into a public works department, and that we don't do restoration, and we don't repair what needs to be repaired and fix the levees that have to be fixed. So I'm challenging them to follow it day by day, work with the state government to make sure that the allocation of that money is spent properly and that it is a benefit to us. Probably 90% of the money comes out of our pockets. When I'm talking about our pockets, the industry's pockets. It's no doubt about it. And so we need to make sure that we recover what we need to be recovered. They are suing us at every angle about the parish lawsuits. We have levy lawsuits. We have legacy lawsuits. All of these lawsuits are out there, but we're already contributing a lot of money and doing a lot of things from revenue that's generated from offshore. So we need to follow that. And so I challenge them for that. And then secondly, I talked to y'all about a matrix on lessons learned from the Macondo accident. And the reason I say that is because there was a lot of people with a lot of knowledge that had to face a very serious situation in a critical period of time. And I felt like, as an association, we could have done a lot better job ourselves in assisting and helping one of our members. And so I'm urging for a matrix. And what I did is I contacted a lot of the CEOs, and I had Chris talk to some and find out what could we do better, what would help, because everybody has their own program and how it's going to go. What we determined was that we should take and address the 18 coastal parishes in our state, and we should know everything from every politician, parish president, mayor, et cetera, et cetera. We should know everything about them. We should know what programs they have in their state for emergency response, how they're going to react, how do they interface with the state, and then we want to also check with them and see what were their major problems and what could we do better, and try to put something down that would be very helpful to our members. And in doing that, we've got to remember that we've got to work with the state government, but also at the end of the day, the feds are coming in and they're taking over. So when they do, who do we have to correspond back to the federal government from the state to speak for us? We were very fortunate. We say this every year, but I'll keep saying it. Scott Angel was available. Scott was there. He was the man who got to go to Washington, and they trusted him a little bit. He did. I think he had to earn their respect, you know. But anyway, he got us in the door, and he got things at least kind of moving. But put that aside. What are we going to do in 2015, in 2016? Who's going to be our voice? Is it going to be the Secretary of DNR? Is it going to be someone in the governor's office? I don't know who it's going to be, but I can tell you it's our responsibility as an industry to ensure that we have a voice in state government in case of any emergency, it can be refinery, it can be hurricane, it can be anything, be able to respond and go to Washington and have some respect and accountability from them, that they know that we're not just industry talking, but it is our state talking. And that's an important part. And so those are a couple of additional things that I've asked them to look at in the offshore committee. The next issue that we talked about last year was the Global Training Center of Excellence. You will recall that at our annual meeting last February, we discussed the potential of partnering with the educational providers to train the next generation workforce, offshore workers. Many of you have previously expressed concern with the new regulations and adding that aging workforce and the challenges to fill the offshore employment needs. We initially thought last February that LMOGA would have to raise the do this educational effort from the ground floor and carry it on our backs. I can tell you that because of our leadership and the quality of, we had a report done by Camille Conaway, and because of her report, the state of Louisiana has accelerated their efforts, and just yesterday, or I guess it was day before yesterday, the Louisiana Board of Regents unanimously approved the creation of the Deepwater Center of Workforce Excellence on March 21st. The $8 million BP Integrated Production and Technology Building will be dedicated by the governor. This is a 30,000 square foot building. It has 4,000 foot lab. This is tremendous. I want to tell you, I don't want to go through all the numbers, but we heard them at the board meeting yesterday. Started very small, and it's increasing at a rapid rate. And it's a wonderful thing that it's about time, I guess is a better way to put it. You know me, I'm bottom line. It's about time we take care of our own and that we get a school that's going to train our workers and make sure that we have the best workers in the world out there working. Look what we have in Louisiana. Louisiana, we're drilling. We're going to have, you heard today, we have 70 rigs working offshore. I think it's our responsibility. So this school is a great beginning. Now, the one thing that we talked about that could be of a major concern with the school would be being able to find the professors that have and the salaries of those professors to be able to teach at this level and of the technology that's going to be out there that they're going to have to be using. So, you know, those teachers make $60,000, $65,000, $70,000, a lot of them today. We have signs on the highway saying, come to work, and when you graduate, you're going to make 60. So it's pretty hard to think that we're going to get the best teachers. And if we're going to have the best workforce, we have to have the best teachers. So I've challenged my group when we're ready that I'm going to be back and approach them for some assistance and some types of endowments to help raise the standards so that we'll be able to get the right teachers and the right methods. And so once we get that memorandum of understanding put together, I'm going to bring it to our group, and hopefully we can sign off. And there's going to be this big announcement on the 20th. I have a target of trying to have it ready for them. So I want you to know that. And while I'm talking about the school, if anybody's in the area, anybody has an opportunity, I challenge you to go out and be there, sit and see the school, see where the money's being spent, and to make sure that you understand the program that is being offered out there. And I think you'll really be surprised. And I want to take a second, and I want to thank one of my board members, really two of them, my vice chairman first, and then I want to thank also Larry Thomas for doing a great job. He kind of, both of them, Carl and Larry kind of directed me and educated me and made me really realize how important this is, and I want to thank y'all here publicly because y'all did a great job on that, and I think we're moving forward. Now for this year, 2014, tort reform, I guess is going to be the issue. You know, I wish we had time to enjoy the things that we're good at, you know, and being able to worry about 75 rigs and doing all the things, but it's pretty hard to find people who want to invest in our state as long as we have the atmosphere that we have in the state, and that you're wondering if I go find a big discovery, is somebody going to be suing me for half of it? You know, I mean, that's kind of the attitude that we let this state get into, and we got to get that behind us. We got to stop it. But I want to tell you that it's very clear that as an industry, we realize we have a responsibility, and we want to clean up the sites that need to be cleaned up. We want to do it in accordance with the established regulatory standards, whether it be 29B or recap. And it doesn't matter which one. We just want to get it cleaned up. And secondly, we want to make sure that it's just and fair. We just want to have it just to be the right thing. And thirdly, we don't want any extremes. This business where people think they make 20 times what a cleanup is and 30 times what a cleanup is just unrealistic. It's just off the charts, and it shouldn't happen. We can't stand by and allow that to happen. It's going to be a hard fight. It's not going to be easy, and I understand the other side's got to make a living, but I think we're providing the services. We're taking the risk, we're investing the dollars, and we're doing it. And what we need to do is get it back to we're all on a great playing field, and that we feel comfortable working here, that we feel like we can invest in this state. And the last thing that's got me concerned about tort reform is, I've been, I guess, chairman going on 4 years or so, but the constitutionality of whatever we pass in the legislature. You know, we pass things, and then every time we pass it, it's overridden in the courts. I don't know if we need to find a couple of good lawyers, or we need to do something, but we need to find somebody who, when we go to work and we pass something, it's going to hold up. So we're personally involved right now. I won't go into all of the different scenarios that are taking place, because there are a lot of agreements that hadn't been reached and hadn't been put together at this time, but I can tell you that LMOGA is attempting to work with the fellow associations like Lobby, LCA, everybody. We're trying to make sure that we have something that is satisfactory and something that can go forward. If not, we're not going to waste the time, because it's not going to pass the constitutionality and it's not going to be good. And I think that it's time that all of us sit at the table and make sure that we come up with a document that is usable. Are
you encouraged about the potential that oil and gas offers for the state of Louisiana?
Oh, I think it's the rebirth of our state. We're sitting in a dream spot. The state itself is on fire. As I mentioned, we have $150 billion worth of new construction, but that's for expansions, that's new constructions. We have a speaker today on gas to liquids who's committed some $15 billion to one plant. So you can tell we got shell oils going out to the Gulf. They've said and drilled to 40,000 feet. We have a 30,000-foot well on land being drilled. So it's a whole new era and a new beginning for all of us in the state. So we have longevity and a little longer life.
What kind of an economic impact does oil and gas have not only on Louisiana but the nation?
Well, we hired Dr. Lawrence Scott. Many people know Dr. Scott with LSU. He's one of the world expert economists with gauging oil and gas, and he did a study for us. The energy impact is a giant for Louisiana. It's a $77 billion economic impact. Jerry, no other industry comes close to those kinds of dollars. That's $77 billion. That's with a B. There are 320,000 people that work in this industry. So it is the economy of Louisiana, and it's continuing to be, as we've heard a lot of these announcements of these manufacturing coming back to the state. Well, that's all being happening not because of the weather and the mosquitoes in Louisiana, Jerry. It's happening because the supply of natural gas, and our guys are producing the kinds of natural gas that keep the price low, that make the manufacturers think twice about relocating to Louisiana.
Are there any particular issues in this session in the Louisiana legislature or in Congress that you're concerned about?
Well, the number one issue that we're facing now is lawsuit abuse. We've got 3 different kinds of lawsuits that we are under fire on. We, of course, are dealing with legacy lawsuits, these lawsuits that happened 50, 60 years ago. That's a continuing fight for us, but it's surfaced with some court decisions. So we'll fight that a little bit. And then, of course, the South Louisiana Flood Protection Authority East, the John Barry lawsuit, has been in the news. Everybody's heard about it. We're working with the administration and Garrett Graves and all the people in the government to try to fight that. And also the Jefferson Parish and also Plaquemines Parish has filed suit against us for coastal wetlands restoration. So without a doubt, the number one priority that we're going to be dealing with is trying to reform the way we do business in this state from a legal standpoint, because what I just talked about, this renaissance, this role, this rebirth of the Gulf of Mexico, there's only one surefire way to stop all of that investment is to have it all clogged up in the legal system and award some of these awards that are just astronomical awards with very small damage. We are a very responsible company. We are environmentally conscious. The coast and the state of Louisiana is important not only to me and every Louisianian, but it's also important to the oil and gas industry, Jerry, because, as I like to say, the oil and gas industry needs Louisiana and Louisiana needs the oil and gas industry. So what I'd like to take away today is that we are not necessarily what we are being portrayed in the press during some of these lawsuits, that we are a very responsible, environmentally conscious industry that's extremely safe, that's ramped up the safety record in this industry to levels we've never seen before.
If people have questions like more information, what should they do?
Well, they certainly can visit our website. It's a wealth of information, history of the industry, refining 101, pipeline 101. Our website is www.LMOGA.com.